Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H virtual event space. Today we are talking about taking photos of the family that stand out. The holidays are coming up. We've invited Mr. Chris Orwig to talk about taking some wonderful family pictures, taking your game up to the next level. A huge thank you to Sony, of course, for hosting this wonderful event. Chris, what's up, man? I'm ready to get zenned out with you.
Yes, I'm so grateful, so excited to be here because we're both dads. And anyone who has a camera, whether that's phone or, small camera, big camera, knows that one of the best things to photograph, of course, are our own kids, our friends' kids, doing family photography. So anyway, and trying to do it in a way that's meaningful and artistic and creative and all those things. Because the thing you learn as a parent is that time flies so fast and the camera kind of slows it down.
I love it. You can say that again. Everything felt that right there. It is. It's the meaningful photos, and I think as we get older, I take less photos of other stuff, more photos of the meaningful stuff you just mentioned. So
Yeah.
I too want to learn how to take better photos of my family. So I'm going to be tuning in. I'm no
Okay.
longer a host from this point forward. I'll see you in a
Okay.
bit for some Q&A, but for right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
I'm a
Let's
viewer.
do it.
So Chris, I'll
Okay.
turn it over to you, and I'll see you guys in a bit for some Q&A.
Okay. I will share my screen in just a second and show you some slides and talk about that. But also wanted to highlight gear just while I have it set up. But my go-to setup for family photography is I use a Sony A7 R5 and 24-70. And then I have a second camera, same thing, A7 R5. And often I'll have a 50 or an 85 on that. And that's kind of the gear that I'll be using. That will make more sense as we dig in. So let me share my screen here and open up our presentation and highlight that what I want to do is share with you 5 tips. And I want to show you those tips kind of as a spoiler alert. They're right here. They won't make sense right now. Before we get into them, I want to show you some pictures so we can kind of get into this mindset. And whatever kind of family photograph it is, you can see some of mine here, whether it's one which is calm or maybe has a little bit more chaos because families, it's chaotic, it's crazy, or something that's more classic. And looking at how we can photograph other people's families, our own families in ways that is natural and true to who they are, which sometimes includes multiple generations. And sometimes these pictures are valuable for, let's say, the grandparents or for the kid who maybe doesn't remember the grandparents. I like photographing people in their backyard, in the back of a truck, in their living room. This is one of those classic family photographs. This is my family on my wife's side at Thanksgiving, where I set up the tripod and I put on the timer and have everyone on the steps gathered together just to show that those moments that we are all together. Other moments of togetherness, like this is a family I photographed this week. They moved into a new home and wanted some pictures in their new home. This is in their backyard or down at a beach, beautiful locations. That's always incredibly fun. A lot of times family photos, skip that one, involve those locations. Sometimes families being goofy, sometimes like both of these are kind of goofy, but I love them. They're just like all squished together and all of the family dynamic there, or going for a stroll on the beach with 5 kids, 3 of them flying in the air in a moment, or maybe those moments that are just kind of calm. And this is a celebrity with her kids, so sometimes I'll do that. My own kids, my daughter Annie on the left, my mom on the right, and really capturing those moments of connection. I love connection between a parent and a child, and trying to focus in on that and capture that particular state of time, that age, and whatever that is, young really or old. Those kind of journalistic fun moments. This was a family just before they were moving out of our house into something different and wanted to get some photos there. I love the little kid on the left, like she was growling the whole time. I love it when parents and kids are interacting and crazy kind of together, connecting, and that sense of closeness, of touch, of warmth, the sense of being together in each other's space in so many fun and interesting ways. And so a lot of this, really what I'm trying to do is just kind of cue up, like, what is family photography? What are ways that I approach this, and how might we approach this, whether again we're in someone's backyard or we're out at a location and kids are being kids, or I was photographing this family and this guy's a rock climber and he climbed up that tree, good friend of ours, Dylan. But I was like, that is great. A great photo of him up there. I love photographing couples too. There's so many different ways we can obviously define family. What is family, right? And I just love the warmth and love and connection of couples. So anytime I can photograph that, I do. I love photographing kids with things that mean something to them, with that sparkle in their eyes, and doing this with all the quirkiness and interestingness and curiosity that kids have and that they bring to life. And so, as you can see, there's a lot of options here, and a lot of this stuff is connection, and it's warmth, and it's trying to do so in an authentic and real way. I love sibling photos. I think those are so fun. And as I look back on photos when I was a kid with my brother and sister, I love just having the ability to look back and remember a little bit what life was like. Also, family members with pets or dogs or animals that mean so much to them. So all of this, it's about meaning, right? It's about how do we capture and create that meaning, and how do we do this well? And that's where the tips are going to help us out. So we've kind of looked at all of these examples. So what are some tips? What are some strategies? What are some techniques? What are some mindsets that we can have that can help us out? The way this will be structured is, right now we're in the introduction and about to wrap that up. And then I'll share the tips, and then I'll provide some recap, and then we can talk a little bit if we have questions. So by way of introduction, I am a Sony ambassador. I'm a photographer, I'm author, and a coach. I do a lot of coaching for creatives, for photographers who want to improve their craft. So that's coaching and mentoring. I've worked with a lot of great brands like Apple and Adobe and Google and Patagonia and others. My most recent books have been about portraiture or about creativity. So that's really my sweet spot. The gear that I use is Sony camera and lenses, and also the iPhone. And I use this gear really exclusively for my photography, filmmaking, and teaching. And I have courses on all these different types of gear. And as I mentioned before, my go-to gear for family photography is the R5, Sony A7R5, and then the 24-70 GM. And the reason why is that lens allows me to do everything and to capture different types of pictures like you've been seeing throughout. So the majority of the photos we're seeing in this presentation were captured with that combination. If anyone's interested in coaching, you can go to my website and find more there. And let's go to tip number 1. And this tip has to do with intention and planning ahead. What I've found is that if you want to capture a family photograph, whether it's a group photo or something else, you have to plan ahead. So I paid attention. This is my brother-in-law's house at the sun. I told everyone when we were going to do this. They all wanted to do this, especially my aunt and the grandparents. And then I got a tripod. You can kind of see my shadow there. I started to collect some people. Eventually the sun set, because I wanted it to be just 5 minutes maybe after the sunset, so it wasn't like harsh light on people's faces. This really even, soft, warm, to me, kind of Thanksgiving light. And then I get everyone on the steps, set up the self timer, and then run in. And the whole point is, especially all of us who have families know that all families are dysfunctional and they're all crazy and weird and fun and all these things. But to get a photo like this, it requires a lot of planning ahead, like multiple days ahead. Hey, on Thursday, let's do this at this time. And then you kind of got to scout the location. You got to figure it out. And then you got to get everyone there. And then someone invariably is late or something, but that intention is really important. And so even when I'm photographing my own kids, I was going to do a shoot. So I said, Elsie, can you go in the backyard? We have this field behind our house. And I just want to like kind of test it out. And so I sort of tested out the light at a certain time of day, and then came back the next day and captured those photos. And the whole point with this is that I think as parents, we like to think we can just capture pictures as life unfolds, but usually it unfolds too fast. And so what I found is having some intention, planning a little bit ahead can really, really help. And that's what has happened with each and every one of these photographs. None of them are just like, oh, there's a moment, I capture it. I'm always thinking, and part of the thinking involves getting my camera ready, cleaning my lens, making sure I have fresh cards, making sure I have good batteries. When it's meeting up with other families, it's creating, just talking about what's the location, what should we wear. We can talk about all of those things, but that's really, I think, one of the key things. And it seems kind of obvious, but without it, what I found, and as I mentor people and as I teach people, that good photographs just don't happen. It requires a lot of intentionality. To be an artist, to be a photographer that creates something meaningful, we really have to plan ahead. And what I'll do is maybe I'll just pause for a moment, and then Derek, feel free to jump in if there are any questions that coming up on your end, or I can jump to the next one, which is direct and connect. Derek, anything on your end?
Nothing so far.
Okay, great. So the second idea I want to share with you is the importance of directing and connecting. So this is now turning to more of a family vacation, and the camera you have maybe in your pocket, which is we're in Hawaii and Kauai here, and my wife and kids are in the ocean, are just like, this is amazing. We're just, just kind of arrived and everything. And so I take the first picture, right? And I take it, but I'm not connected with them at all. I haven't directed them. They're really happy. You can't tell. And so what we often have to do as photographers is say, okay, you guys come over here. I get a little bit closer. I'm like, show me how happy you are here to be in Hawaii. And they're just like, yeah. And look at the difference, right? And so the thing with family photography is that we have to have that intention. That was tip one. I want to take a good photo of my family in the ocean, let's say. So I bring my iPhone to the beach at this point. But then we got to direct. We got to influence. We have to get involved. Here's another situation. I'm photographing an artist on the left there, and her son, Andrew, who has Down syndrome. And her studio is in her garage, as you can see here. And Andrew is just kind of squirrely and running all around and everything. And so what I have to do is I have to say, well, what if you get over down next to him so you guys are together? And then Andrew gives her this big hug, and I get this wonderful mom-son moment. I love this picture. I love Andrew so much. I love Amber so much. She's an art teacher at our kids' school, and she's had such a wonderful impact on our family. So I want to capture an image that shows some of their warmth. And again, I need to connect with them. I need to be talking to them, and then I need to direct them. Another way we direct is by telling stories. I've shared these photos in other places, but there's this soccer field really close to where we live, and there's a tire on the field. And so my daughter started standing on it, and I was like, oh, cool, first picture. And in photography, the first picture is a picture of just like something's catching my interest, my eye, my heart, and you take it. And then you say, okay, now what? Now how do I do the work of a photographer? And that's telling a story. And I say to the kids, what if you guys, like, what if you stand on the tire? And Sophie, what if you come over? And Sammy, what if you sit in the tire? And we kind of have this fun moment. And then I wanted to tell another story. I said, well, what if I get low? And Annie, what if you jump up straight, spread your legs out, and then kind of like you're leaping, and then land back on the tire? And then that leads me to this picture, which looks like she's sort of like flying over the tire. And it's a story, right? And it's this fun kind of magical moment. And so that's where I'm, as a director, almost like a film director, you're like, what's the narrative? What's the story? How do I want to convey and communicate that? In other situations, maybe you're photographing a family, and this is a bit of a family reunion. They had been apart for a couple reasons, and we're going to go down to the beach near where they live. This is in Hope Ranch. It's this beautiful beach in Santa Barbara, the town where I live. And I have the family on the beach, and I take the picture, and it's not very good, but that's okay. The first picture is just like, okay, what's happening? What's the story? And then I have to like connect with them, ask them questions. I have to engage. And all I had to do was just have them stand in a different area. I walked around to the other side, so the lights illuminating them. I organized myself. You can tell I'm connected with them. So it's not just like do this, stand there, but it's like a warmth. That's, I think, why I mean direct and connect. And it started here and then it ended up closer, right? Or that other picture, but then I moved in even closer. And you can see how I'm doing that and how I'm really directing them, giving them ideas on where to stand, what to do. And that creates these wonderful moments. In other situations like this, the daughter, they said, hey, how about if we bring our daughter's horse to the beach? And I'm like, oh my gosh, heck yeah. And I take the first picture, which is like she's riding the horse off. You can't really see her. You just see the backside of the horse. It's not a good picture. So I have to try to say like, okay, what if you come around here, like swing your horse around this way, and then we get a picture in that way? Or what if we bring the horse up over to your family, and then one of you pets the horse and we get the family with the horse? Or then what if you hop off your horse and lead your horse around the beach? So you get the idea that all of this is coming from influence. And with families, it's hard to influence a group and to direct, but you do so in a warm and kind way, and it ends up leading to warm and kind and creative and beautiful images. So that second tip I have for you is really thinking about your role as a director and a connector. So you can't just be a distant observer, at least in my opinion. What I found is otherwise it just doesn't look very good. It's like, oh, the family's there, or the person with the horse is there, but it doesn't have that like beautiful, warm quality. The third tip that I want to share with you is cultivating connection. But again, I want to pause here. Derek, before I jump to that, is there anything coming in for you that you want to hit or highlight, or have me
We
jump
do
back?
have we do have a question regarding Phil Flash. I don't know if you want to take it
Yeah, sure.
now, table it. So Donna joining us on YouTube is asking, do you use Phil Flash? So if you could just give us a quick little spin around the block on you, your lighting, and more importantly, I mean, we're talking family portraits, right? How do
Yeah.
you stay in the moment while worrying about lights?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Um, I very rarely use Flash. That being said, the photo shoot I did most recently, I did bring a Profoto B10. I have it sitting next to me because I haven't unpacked my bag yet. And let me see if I can grab it just to highlight what that looks like. Can I reach it without looking in? Okay, I got lucky. There it is. Um, and so this one, I love these little flashes. I mean, all the Profoto kind of smaller stuff that's all wireless and all that cordless is phenomenal. And I will use these in situations like I did with this last family. They wanted a few interior shots with their family in their home, and then also I knew the sun was going to set. And so with these lights, I can even, hold them and bounce them behind me off of a wall. I can, or use a little umbrella, or I brought a stand and I could set up on a stand. So I can do it without an assistant and without a lot of effort and without a lot of thinking. So the way that I'll use that light is I set it on TTL, which means it's evaluating the exposure for me. It's giving me a good exposure, and then I can fine tune that. So it's basically kind of a really, not to make this an ad for Profoto, but their lights are amazing. And there's so many other amazing lights out there, but the family doesn't even really know I'm using Phil Flash. I just kind of grab it, I kind of shoot with it, and then I don't. So the reason I'm saying that way maybe is what is really important to what your point, Derek, is staying in the moment. If ever I'm starting getting frustrated and I'm sandbagging and lights are blowing over and it's like creating more chaos, it's not going to work out very well, because families have enough chaos of their own. At least my family, when we go to the beach, we have 2 dogs, we have 3 kids, who knows what's happening. So yeah, does that make sense? Does that answer it?
Totally, totally. I mean, it's one of those things. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, it's all about staying in the moment. You can't worry about the lighting, but there's a certain sense of when you set up lighting, it allows you to stay in the moment more because you have a nice, a reliable source.
Yes.
I don't know. It's a back and
Yeah.
forth, and it's one of those challenges you have to work through, right? As you get more
Yeah.
comfortable in your photography.
Yes, yes. And that just made me think about staying in the moment where the light can help. Like I did this one where there's this little girl in the last family, her name was Esme, and she was just this wild, creative, crazy, kid, third youngest kid in the family. So she was like kind of the attention seeker. And so I set up a light and I was like, I want to do a photo just of you with the light. She was like, ooh, she felt like it was all special. I was like, you guys are off the hook for a second. And so it helped me create a little moment with her. She was sitting on this rock and actually it was a beautiful picture. Um, so yeah, I think trying to find ways to use these things, to your advantage and to make that connection and just being mindful of that and being mindful if you're going to need, I guess just what I'm thinking of, it's like if it's windy, because usually family photos are outdoors, at least for me. So if I'm going to need someone to hang on to the light, bring someone to do it. I don't want the family worried about my gear to blow over or something, and I don't want to worry about that either.
You don't want to have any worries. Can we sneak another question in?
Yeah, let's
Natasha
do
has a
it.
great question. Everybody has hit this point during a group photo.
Yeah.
Where are you putting your focus point during family sessions? It seems like even if you shoot at
Yeah.
like an aperture like f5.6, f8,
Yeah.
you have the one kid that's at the front of the group,
Yeah.
grandpa's in the back, and somebody's
Totally.
out of focus. Where do you focus?
Yeah. Yeah. That is such a good question. I mean, two things come in for me. One, parents usually don't mind being out of focus, and they love their kids being in focus. So I probably subconsciously I know that, and so default kids, any kid, like if I can get a kid, if I'm shooting, I'd like to shoot really shallow, 2.8 or 1.4 or something, kids in. Another time though, there's one photo I went through those kind of quickly, but where I had the dog in focus and then the family behind the dog. So sometimes it's fun to like play with something or someone to kind of draw focus. And then of course, I think the question's more geared towards like you have the group, but people are at different spots in the scene. What I'll tend to do is first capture something really shallow and then quick change that to try to get a little bit more to give me best of both worlds, if I need that. Or like there was a big huge group of like my family on the steps that was probably f8 or something, and just focusing in the middle, to try to capture everything. But all that being said is I try to cover my bases, but then I asked a good friend of ours to photograph our family once, and she shot like f1.2 the whole time. Most of the pictures were not like tack sharp, or one person's eyes were sharp, no one else's was, and I loved it. So it kind of made me realize, like, when I look at photos of my own family, I don't want everyone sharp. I don't want like we're all there. I mean, that big steps photo, or big, when you have like the big group photos, even at weddings, it's like it's not art at that point. It's just like make sure you get everyone in there.
Yes, it's just documenting it.
It's just documenting it. So that's fine. Do something so everyone's deal. But the other ones, I don't know. I kind of like a little out of focus because that's kind of how, at least for me, how my family life is. Like at the dinner table, someone's talking to someone else, someone talks over someone, you're passing, you're moving. It's a very fluid thing. So I always think about, I connect focus to your heart, right? Because the way your heart sees is very shallow. And if, all the examples of that, I'll just go to my own wedding day. When my bride was walking, my wife, fiance Kelly was walking on the aisle, I probably saw her at like not even f.95, but at like f.5 or something. She's so sharp, but everything else is a blur. And that's how, things that we really care about. It's also true, like for danger, like if a tiger came, we would see that it really shallowed up the field and everything else would blur. But things we deeply love. So anyway, I just think of love, right? Family, it's all about love. It's about warmth. It's about connection, at least for me. So I let go of that. So Natasha, I don't know if that totally answered the question, if that was fair.
I love that answer between the analogies and just the realism of it. It is like it is. It's something where when you made the point, Chris, that the group photo, it's not art.
Yeah.
It really isn't. So I don't think you should look at it as such or over obsess with it.
Yeah.
And I think you made another great point. It's easier to look at someone else's images of you and say, wow, I really like this, than
Yes.
to you. Now you try to go and take a group shot at f1.2. And there's a lot of people who would be like, oh my God, they're going to hate these. Only one kid's eyes are in focus and everyone else is blurry and this and that. And it's like, and half the time it's like, granted, you do have the situations where it's like, well, why is everyone out of focus? This doesn't make,
Right.
but easy. I think there's an easy way to break it down. If you guys are, if it's going to be the family that is worried about all of that, shoot wider.
Yeah.
Inherently, you shoot with the 24 millimeters, more stuff, more is going to be in focus, even with if you shoot wide open at a 24 and f2.8.
Yeah.
You get it in focus enough. And I think when you go to the creative side of things and you go to your 50 to 85 focal lengths, you can get a little more creative. Obviously, you're going to have way more fall off there. The depth of field is going to be shallower. You're going to have more compression and all that. But I like what you said about feeling it and the emotion and the heart aspect versus, okay, everyone stand on the steps, we're just going to get a picture. Because my family was the same thing. We're all
Yeah.
in one place. I'm one of 8 kids, so when you get us all together, I don't care how artsy it looks. We just
Yeah.
want a picture of all of us together. Get one picture and then have fun with it.
Right, right. Because at that point, I mean, doing like the Annie Leibovitz like triangles and like setting it up, like I actually don't want to do that kind of group photography, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I know other people do, as you like, and I think this is where it's important to have. I'll talk about this in a second. Intention a little bit more, but is like you can tell stylistically the reason why I wanted to show photos was like, okay, we're getting a feel for what I want to do. Other people, maybe they are more exact, more precise, more studio, more, lit, more, really like having people sit on apple boxes and, having triangles and, really good composition. And that's awesome. And I admire and respect that. But I just realized that's not me and that's not my family. You know what I mean? Like, my family, we're a beach family. We're all a bunch of surfers. We live in California. We love the sun. We love the snow. We love the mountains. We have golden retrievers. So anyway, so what I found is when I'm true to myself, then I attract those kind of clients or capture those kind of moments. And I think part of getting good at photography, and you and I have talked about this before, but is looking inward. Who am I? What do I want to do? And how do I want to, what kind of photos do I want to create? How does that come from who I am? And what I mean by that is if I did really precise photos, perfectly lit, and it was really high end clients in my town, it wouldn't really feed my soul. And I've done those photos with my kids when I've done light testing. I'm just like, I just don't like them. It just looks too formal. And I think tuning into what we like is a really important thing to develop our own style. So when we're photographing different families, even though it's different people and different times of day, it kind of has that style.
definitely. Awesome. Well, we'll
What's
let
your
you.
what's your family like?
What's my family? You know what? Running gun. My
Yeah.
family, my son's all over the place. He's a character.
How old is he?
I 6. So I've adopted or embraced the throw the technical out completely.
Yeah.
It's all about the moment. I had somebody show me an image the other day. It was a model on a photo walk that we were doing, and the model showed me an image that they had taken. Everybody wants to get their photography chops in now. And he's like, "Oh, I love this image, but it's like, I just wish it were in focus. It was blurry. I don't know what I did." And I'm like, you know what? Embrace it. You
Yeah.
captured the moment, didn't you? When you look at the picture, you're going to remember the moment, right? That's all it is.
Yeah.
Pictures are a vessel to bring us back to a moment in time. And if you
Yes.
get too caught up on the technical part, you really miss the beauty of the moment itself. And motion's emotion.
Yeah. I agree. Couldn't agree more. Let me keep going. Here we go.
Yes,
Love it. So cultivate connection is the next one. And basically what that's coming from is this is my daughter Annie when she was little. And she she was kind of doing a push-up, that age before crawling on the bed. And she wasn't connected with me. I wasn't connected with her. But all it takes is making that connection. And when you have that, you see and feel that in the photographs. And the connection happens by noticing something. Okay, good light, she's in the wagon. This is Annie, now a little bit older, and then I get close, I'm talking to her, and you feel that really connection. Notice we're going apple picking, and then again Annie, and have say, hey, what if you hand me an apple? So that connection is really important. And as things are happening in life, she's in an aquarium, and I say, what if you look up at that over there? And we're sharing these little moments together. And sometimes that means with the family that's just like scrambling and they're like squirreling, the little kid wants to run away, is finding a way to, and I'm using this word cultivate because I kind of like it. It's like organically like grow and emerges. In this case, it was the family, the little kid was a runner, so I had her get on her dad's shoulders, asked if she would you ever go up there? And then I like how the mom and the daughter in the middle, they're held and her arms wrapped around, and I had her lean towards the mom. And I love this photo, and I think because of what it represents is that if we go backwards, sometimes being parents in a family feels like this, but what we want it to do is get to that place of stillness and connectedness and trueness to who we are. I love these pictures. I love how the daughter decided to lean against her dad. Her dad's this really big, like just kind of striking, handsome guy. He's this amazing surfer, and all these other things. But and then I love him when he wrapped his arms around her. And so cultivating this connection between your subjects. And a lot of times what that means is proximity and touch. And so as I go through these images, what I want you to do is to pay attention to like the hands and the closeness. In this case, part of the connection was getting down to the daughter's level. So even the grandparents were all getting down really low. So we're all connected there. They're sitting on top of a picnic table, and notice the hands and the sense of touch, and really encouraging that and inviting that. And that's super important to me, because it's just like you have this bundle of wonderfulness versus like just people standing there like sticks kind of side by side. And so all of these images, and kind of looking at these now through this lens of touch and of connection and of cultivating that. So I'm picking her daughter up and spinning her around. That was really fun. Arm around the shoulders, arms wrapped, heads leaning into each other, embraces, a subtle embrace on the right, but a little more of a bear hug embrace on the left, but both of those. And I love how their heads again tilted into each other, heads tilt, hands, mom, wrapping her arms around her. I think that her son here is a freshman in college, and you can tell he loves her even at that age. And I just love this fun moment that they have, or siblings, of course, as they squish together. So tip number 3 is to cultivate that connection. Tip number 4 is to think like a cinematographer. And what I mean by that is cinematography, or narratives or stories or storytellers, they tell both sides of the story. When the kid's smiling, or when he's crying because someone took his toy or something. Or when the kids are standing there well behaved, or jumping off rocks, or doing cartwheels, or being silly, or when the mom and dad are watching the kids be crazy and they kind of happen to stand next to each other. Photograph that, but also photograph kind of the more normal, there we are all together picture. When the parents are laughing, or when the daughter is covering her dad's eyes. And the cinematographer part of this is just thinking about storytelling. You want to tell multiple parts of the story. In every good film, it's not just like, here's the person, but you see the person up close, from a distance, you see all the characters, and really trying to extend that. The last tip here is seizing the day. And this is trying to remember that all of these moments, they're so fleeting. We think when we're there, they're going to last. Like, let's say we think that this little girl is going to sprint around the beach like that. She doesn't anymore. We think the girl is going to always have a horse, and then she doesn't have that horse anymore. Or my own daughter, or my mom, like just kind of seizing these precious, wonderful moments, and these moments of togetherness. Like in this photo, this is a photo before, like there's one couple here that now has a baby that will be in the photo this upcoming Thanksgiving, or a new boyfriend will show up. But it just kind of shows like the mix and the group, and capturing and seizing those moments. And a lot of this too is about looking at these relationships that we all have with each other, and sometimes helping people remember and realize, even though their brothers or sisters bother them, they're important to them. Or like this with this girl with her dog. This dog passed away a little bit later, and she loved her dog, and she got her dog's name tattooed on her arm. And I made her a print of this, and she has it up in her college apartment. And then last but not least, this one, which is really meaningful to me. This is our good family friend, Ray, there on the left. He passed away a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to his memorial later today. And I've just been really thinking about him. He had a battle with cancer, and he was just a really kind, warm, loving, amazing man. And we have to seize these moments while they're there. And these pictures were taken a year ago, just as he was becoming aware of the cancer and everything, and has since passed. So we never know, and we have to savor the time that we have. And so my tips for doing that are, number one, to have some intention or put some planning into this. Explore how you can be a director, but do so in a way that you connect. Cultivate connection with your subject and also your subjects with each other. Thinking like a cinematographer, like ask yourself, what are other parts of the story I can tell? Like going back, let me see if I can go back a slide, but like, I'm so glad I have a photo of Ray by himself over there on the left, also, of course, with his family, but that's like the cinematographer. I need to tell the full story, right? And then seizing the day, so that you seize the day that we have. And thank you so much too, as well. And I'll stop sharing my screen here in a second, but these are places you can find me. My commercial photography is my name, chrisorwig.com. And then my family and weddings and kids and all that is Chris Orwig Photo. I have those on 2 different places. So if you want to check that out, you can find those there. I'll go ahead and stop sharing and then exit out of that. And then Derek, what's coming in for you? Any thoughts, questions, reflections?
The Zen's flowing. I just want to say that first off. So I
Yes.
always I could have you on once a week because it always mellows me out. I feel like when my blood pressure comes down, it's a simple approach, man. And I
Yeah.
think you that's what's so great about your work is it has your stamp all over it, but it's so simple, so classic. It You don't overcomplicate the process, and I can tell that you enjoy it and you put more feeling into your work, and it's not in a way. We live in the YouTube photographer generation of, if I didn't make a video telling you how much I love photography and doing this and telling you this and that and going on the technical part, I didn't really take the image. And you're just listening to you talk about your work is just like, it's simple. It's you do this, you're really just connecting to the person. It's tips to help people get into that vibe. And I feel like it's more driven by inspiration. It's more of a motivational approach rather than do this and do this and do this. And you kind of get me into the mindset of, hey, anybody can do this.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it doesn't take a whole, it's let's go to the analogy route. It doesn't take a 30-step recipe. You
Right.
take what you have in your kitchen, go based on feeling, a pinch here, a punch there, and voila. Taste it, see if it works. And it's kind of, that's how you create the magic.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And then to your other point, like tune into what do you enjoy about it. And so for me to connect with kids or families, and a lot of the family photography I do, I don't know if a lot, but is for free or like for friends or people who can't afford it or for um like and I think like maybe kind of flashing forward, when I'm a grandpa, which I hope I will be someday, I love to photograph like my grandkids and do that for my kids, or it's like a gift is what I'm getting at. It's like this, like
Mhm.
family photography is one of the most meaningful gifts. And I learned this once I was photographing Kelly Slater at this at this surfboard factory, and with one of his sponsors and all this stuff. And then I was talking to someone who was there, and I had taken a picture of that guy with his dog, this guy who worked there. And he said something about how he loved the pictures, and I was like, oh, I'll bring a print of Kelly next time I come back. And he was like, why would I want a print of him? He's like, I want a print of me and my dog. And I was like, of course you do. As a photographer, I thought like the celebrity is the photo we want, but like we don't like, because think of this, like, would you like, I would never hang a photograph up of a celebrity in my little cabin here, but I would totally hang a photograph up of my kids.
Yeah.
And the reason is because of meaning. And if someone takes a photo, you know, like let's say if we were hanging out and you took a photo of a horse or you took a photo of me and my daughter, I would say like, send me the me and my daughter one, right? Because I would want, even if it was the best horse photo ever, and you get what I'm saying, I'm kind of falling apart a little bit in how I'm describing it, I think, but just that when people have, because I have very few photos of myself with my family because I'm a photographer, but when people have captured them, I don't care how horrible the photo is, I love it because it's a gift. And I think family photography has this gift nature to it, sometimes for ourselves or sometimes for our kids. Like they see a picture like, that's what I was like as a kid, or that was before I broke my arm, and oh, I remember that. And it like helps us deepen our human experience. And I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I mean, all photography does, but I think families in particular. And also, we have to say, with the holidays coming up, getting together with family is nutty. I mean, there's so much family dynamic. It's so complicated. There's often drama. It's often not pleasant for people. I totally get that. But I think that's where the cinematography comes in. Sometimes you can capture quirky moments, ironic moments. Sometimes you can capture small moments of warmth, or maybe like there's something your mom does, or I'll use myself, that just drives me crazy. But sometimes having a photograph of that makes it less crazy because I'm like, that's so her. And that's so her in the kitchen with all the dishes and all the stuff. So anyway, I think it's a great opportunity to practice the art of photography as we're rolling into a season of a bunch of back-to-back holidays for different communities and cultures. And it's a great way to put into practice all this photo stuff. And maybe the last thing I'll say, because I'm going on here, is it's easy to photograph like a model or street photography or landscape. But when you start to photograph people you're close to, it's different and it's hard, but it's so worthwhile. So
Totally. No better way to end it right there. It really is worthwhile. Those are the pictures that you're going to look back 10, 20, 30 years from now, your family's going to look back on, and the images that are going to be the most meaningful down the road are going to be the ones of close friends, loved ones. Our condolences to you and your friends and family with your loss. And it really is a perfect example to show the power of a photo and the power, the really what you're capturing is you're not just taking an image of somebody, you're really capturing somebody's soul. And that person lives on through the images we take. So, Chris, this was just a beautiful opening to the time of year where everybody focuses on family. It's a beautiful time of year for some people. It's a painful time of year for others. And photography is there through it all, through the good moments, the bad moments, the painful ones. We really draw strength from that. So, Chris, huge thank you to you for joining us, as always, to Sony for hosting. We're going to see you again on the 16th. Zen and the Art of Scene, right up your alley. So I'm gonna let everything go off the rails until then, so you can ground me on the 16th.
Okay.
Chris,
all right.
Huge thank you once again. Always good to chop it up with you. To all of our viewers out there, and we hope you guys get zenned out as well when we do these things. So huge thank you to all of our viewers out there. That's all we got in the books for right now. Another rendition of the B&H virtual event space in the books. Catch y'all next time.